The Poughkeepsie Tapes is written and directed by John Eric Dowdle and stars Stacy Chbosky. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Josh, and I'm here to give you my 2-cent review on the 2007 film, The Poughkeepsie Tapes. Now, this is a faux documentary about a serial killer's home movies. So it's basically set up as if it was like a documentary you would see on like the Crime Network station. It's so it doesn't have much of a storyline to basically give you guys. So like I said, it's basically about a serial killer's home movies, so there you go. So what do I like about this movie? The fact that this movie had a serious problem getting its release. I like the fact that it had a problem getting released because the film actually got more notice through the fact that it wasn't released. Another thing I love about this movie is the fact that it is directed by Minnesota natives. So John Eric Dowdle, who we know from directing films like Quarantine, As Above, So Below. He also did the very underrated M. Night Shyamalan film, Devil. So I think he's a very talented filmmaker. This was his first attempt at a horror film when he had done two very independent films that were comedies. So this was his first attempt at a horror film, and he pulled it off in spades. This movie is awesome. It is scary. Now, when I first originally saw this movie, because it was now just released on Blu-ray through Scream Factory back in October of 2017, sorry. And so I got to actually physically watch this on my TV as opposed to watching it on my phone on YouTube. So, I like the fact that this movie had its issues getting released because when MGM originally bought the film, the company went bankrupt, so the film got shelved. The only way you were able to see this movie is through streaming services or through YouTube, which you could watch only in segments. So it'd be like 1 segment, 2 segment, 3 segment, 4. There would be so many different segments of this movie, you have to pick and choose which one was the next part of the film. Netflix acquired the Poughkeepsie Tapes back when Netflix was pretty much launching itself, and then they had it pulled because the film was then going to get re-released into theaters, but then that stopped, and then it just kept going back and forth between studios. Essentially, this film was just a disaster to get released. But I think that adds to the charm of this movie, and it adds to the mystery surrounding this movie as, this may be a movie I shouldn't be watching. Should I give it a shot? Yes, I'm going to tell you all, to anybody who is a fan of horror and who actually likes the found footage genre, give this movie a chance. I actually love this movie. It is scary. It is realistic. There are some moments, I will say, that are not very realistic, that are a little cheesy, but all the killer's found footage stuff, all his home movies, they are compelling. They were really creepy scenes. And they did it for me. This movie actually is one of the scarier films I've ever seen, and it will remain that way because it's just very effective in what it attempts to do. And usually with the found footage genre, I feel, and this is alike, is that this movie isn't about supernatural. Now, I know the fact that supernatural is basically the whole found footage genre, everything revolving around Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch, Chernobyl Diaries, blah, 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 blah. There are so many found footage films, but they all revolve around the supernatural subgenre. Why don't we have movies like this where they focus on fake documentary style serial killer films? That is what I would love to see more. I'm getting sick and tired of films like Paranormal Activity, the freaking Ghost Dimension. Get rid of them. We don't need them anymore. Let's change the genre up. Let's do something we haven't seen yet. This movie was an attempt to do that, and it got, shelved for so long. But when it got released, people were exploding with anticipation to actually own a copy of this movie, me being one of them. So I ordered the film as fast as I could, and I got it. And but I will say that does lead into my dislikes of this movie because there is a certain feel when you watch this movie on YouTube. It almost feels like it's very underground, so it feels like it's something you shouldn't be watching. When you watch the Blu-ray, even though, yes, there's still a lot of grainy, VHS quality like moments in the movie, you see more of the mistakes. You see a little bit more of things you probably shouldn't see because they probably didn't want you to see these certain little things. So that kind of took me out of the film a little bit, but nonetheless, it still made the film very effective to me. And there are certain close-up shots that you could tell were digitized out. So it took the realism out of it for me, but it still nonetheless was very effective. the acting in the film, there are some moments where you have forensic pathologists, you have police investigators who are talking directly to the camera, as if they were being interviewed, and their acting comes off a little cheesy. They make some like cornball cheesy attempts at making you laugh lines that are just really kind of cringeworthy. So that kind of took me out of the film as well. So once we got to the serial killer's home movie segments, that was more of where it got real and gritty and creepy, whereas all of the investigation aspects of it felt a little cheesy, and all the dialogue felt like they had to improvise their lines, so it really felt like they weren't giving it their all. So you could definitely tell that there was some, problems when it came to the acting itself, because there wasn't a whole lot to be had. I did enjoy the Cheryl Dempsey segment of the movie. It is the most gut-wrenching aspect of the movie. It is probably the one aspect of the movie that has more of a narrative to it, and it has it going somewhere. Whereas the first half of the movie, you don't know where it's really going to go. But once it gets to the story of Cheryl Dempsey and her disappearance, it gets more nuts. The movie gets a little bit more intense. It gets a little bit more dread-filled. It's very, very well done. And it leads to a great climax for me as as a film goer and as a potential wannabe filmmaker. I really dug this movie. So with that being said, I'm gonna definitely say add this to your collection. I know I wanted to give it a grade higher, and I have films coming that are gonna be a grade higher, but this one is a definite add to your collection. This is a movie I could watch quite a few times, and it is going to scare me every time I see it because there's a little bit more to get out of it, and that's what I think the magic of this movie is. And I say this is a movie that's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely worth owning and putting on your shelf, and I hope everybody gets a chance to see this movie. If you don't, I will personally come to your house and I'll watch it with you. How about that? Don't quote me on that. I don't know if I'm going to do that. So, with that being said, let me know in the comment section down below. What did you guys think of the Poughkeepsie tapes? Have you seen it? Did you guys like it? Did it scare you? Did it not scare you? Let's have an awesome discussion about this movie, because I would love to get people's responses on this film. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button down below, and until next time, I'll have more content coming to you guys very soon. So until then, have fun, and I'll see you guys later.